Okay, so I got a couple emails today asking for some tips and tricks for distributing Google Documents to students. So I thought I'd make a short video. You have a couple options when you're working with a Google Doc that you want to get out to your students. And one of the options is an add-on called Doctopus. I have not messed with this add-on very much at all. But if you just Google Doctopus, it'll come up. It's an add-on for Google Sheets, so it works in conjunction with the Excel sheets in Google Drive, as well as other documents that you want to distribute. And my understanding of what it does is you can actually put in a roster of your students, and when you have a document that you want to distribute, it sends it out to all of those students based on that roster that you have created. So like I said, I've not messed with it very much. It has the capability to distribute things to project groups, which I think could work really well for us. It also gives you the option to differentiate assignments, and it does keep everything organized for you in a Google Sheets. So you can see who's turned the document in, who hasn't turned the document in. I've read a little bit that it does have some rubric functionality now that is fairly new. But again, I haven't used this a whole lot. So that may be something that you want to investigate on your own. I think a much simpler option is what I do, and that is I distribute everything through Google Docs. So when you decide you have a document that you want to send out to students, the first thing you need to figure out is what do you want them to be able to do with it. So when I go to share this with students, I'm going to click this blue share button up at the top, and you're going to click the advanced setting. And up here in the very first line, mine is a little bit different because it's already shared. But typically this is going to say private unless it's a document that you've shared before. You can see that I've shared it with specific individuals, but to type in the name of 45 or 50 students is just not practical. So what you can do instead is if you click change here up at the top, you can decide. I typically go with share it with anyone who has the link. So anyone I email or send this link to is going to be able to click that link and they're going to have access. This is where you need to decide what kind of access you would like them to have. So down here at the bottom, you have three options. You can set it so that they can only view it. So this is a reading. So if all I wanted them to do was read it and then come prepared to discuss, I could send it so they can just view it. If I was doing some kind of peer editing or I wanted feedback from students, I could give them the option to comment. This one works really great for peer editing or group collaboration where they're just maybe discussing an article. You can also give them the ability to edit it. Now keep in mind, if you send this document out to 50 students with the ability to edit, they can do whatever they want to the document. They can delete stuff, they can add stuff, they can highlight, all those things. So if you don't want them messing up your, essentially in photocopy days, your original, then I would not give them the ability to edit. Now, the edit function is great for collaboration. So if students are working on a document together or you're working with a co-teacher, that edit function can be really, really beneficial. So for my first run through, we're just going to leave it as can view and hit save. Now, up here at the top, you'll see a link to share. It's not a pretty link. It's really long. You'd never want to write it on the board for students to go to. What you can do is you can link to this in the agendas. So typically what I would do is I would type the title of the reading, and then I would link to that text. So students will never really see this big long link. They'll just be able to click on the title, and then it will open up the document. Again, they're only going to have the ability to view it. A couple really cool things that we learned at the Google Summit is if I copy this and I open a new tab, so I have a blank tab here, and I paste it in my search bar, you can manipulate this link a little bit to work to your advantage. So right now, even though it's view only, it still says edit. I'm not sure why. If I wanted to make sure that students could only view it, I could write view in the tab. and it would pop up and they wouldn't have any editing capabilities. You can also, in the link, if you add copy, and this is one of my favorites because it's not an option in that share box, that advanced share settings where we were before, it's not an option. So if you change it to copy, what it does when students click on it, it'll say, would you like to make a copy of this document? And I love this function because that forces students to put a copy of it in their drive. So they can't say, well, I never saved it or I didn't put it in my drive. They cannot even look at it until they make a copy. And one of the things I would make sure you do is get in a habit of telling students how to name their documents. What's nice is it keeps my original title, but I always tell students to get in the habit of deleting this copy of and adding the date that we use that assignment in class. I also usually ask that students put their last name on their documents, especially anything that's going to be shared with me. It just helps me keep my sanity and make it quick and easy to see whose document is whose. So those are just a couple cool functions. Adding copy, again, I'll do it one more time. If you paste that share link, it's everything after the backslash gets deleted. And you can either hit view or, my favorite, if you type in copy, it will force students to make a copy of that document. So a couple really cool functions that can really help you with distributing documents to students. Again, if you were to change this and you want them to be able to comment only, it's the same exact thing. You switch it to can comment, and then you're going to copy and paste this link to some text that you've put in on your agenda. Now, if you're sending it to a group of 4, you can always put in their addresses, email addresses, and decide specifically how you want them to interact with the document. But I use that copy function for almost everything that I send out to students. Very rarely do I have them simply view something, because typically if it's a text, I want them to interact with it. I want them to annotate and comment and highlight, and I want them to do that in their own document or a document with a group. So that copy function is what I use the most, and so far it's worked pretty well.